Hey YouTubers, welcome back to John's Garage. So today's job is to put the seat back in my car after getting a new window seal in my Acura 3.2 TL. So I had some water in the trunk when it was raining and tried to find the source of the leak. So this is a 20-year-old car, so the first thing I did was to get the window seal replaced. And since it's such an old car, I had to order this window seal from the dealer. And that takes about 10 days to get and costs about $100. There are no aftermarket window seals for the back window of this car. I checked and I checked. So while the window seal was being ordered, when it was about to come in, I took out everything that has to come out for this job to be done because I didn't want the glass shop to tear up the leather or anything. And so you got to take out the rear deck and the brake light and the one speaker in the middle, and then you take out the back seat bottom and then the back seat. Well, first you do the seats. You take the bottom seat out and then the back upright portion, and then you take out the brake light, and then you take out the left and right covers. And I've got things all over the garage here. So I took out the parts in the trunk while I was trying to locate the leak, and I've got parts all over the floor. And there's the seats, and these are the covers that go up in the window where the third brake light is. But anyway, so I thought there was water coming through here because the seal was really dried out, so I had the shop replace that, and they put it in upside down, whereas this was turned over and it just flipped over the wrong way. So because they did it wrong, I had to have them order a replacement at their cost and wait another 10 days. And while that was coming in, I looked for more leaks in here. And first thing I did was I checked the sunroof. And there's actually 4 drain holes in the sunroof, and they come out like, here's a drain hose where the jack is, and that water will drip out by the mud flap on the passenger and driver's side, the rear wheels. And then there's 2 other drain holes that come out by the front mud flaps. So in the sunroof, there's these drain holes in the 4 corners of the sunroof when you have it open. I poured water in there and the drains are all working good. And so I kept looking and looking to find the source. And what I found was the taillights of all things. Because if you watch the water, how it comes down around the rubber trunk seal, which I took mine out. You could take this whole thing out, it just comes out. I took it out and I inspected the whole thing. There's no rust in the channel and it all looks good. And then the water comes down by the taillights, and there's a gap here, and that's by design. And if you take these taillights out, you'll see there's a foam gasket. And where I was getting some water out of here was right here. I was getting water coming out, and it was dripping. It was dripping down, and then it was coming around into the spare tire. So what I had to do was order these gaskets, and they come in pretty quick. I guess it's a popular thing. So even though it's an Acura, it's still a Honda part. And you have two of these. And they're neoprene, kind of like wetsuit material. And there's a left one and a right one. And so if you take out, there's 6 nuts that hold the light in, and you unplug the connectors for the bulbs, and then take these 6 nuts off, and then just take the light, just pull it out, and then you'll see this gasket on the back. And there's, as part of the stud, the metal threaded stud, there's like a little washer that's metal, and you tuck this under that on all 6 of these so that it stays on the tail light. That's the way it's supposed to be. And then you put the light back in. You can see here where there was some water coming through, and it actually seals right along the edge of the tail light, and that's where the waterproofing is, because there's wires, and the water's not supposed to go through there. And you know, you got to have the wires for your bulbs going through here, and so water could get through if it's not a nice tight seal. And these don't feel really dried out or anything, but they were dry enough that water was getting through. So anyway, last night I went back to the shop, and they put the molding, is what it's called. That's a rubber seal. They put it in correctly this time, and it's wet out during the night, cars outside, and they put it in correctly. So today I'm going to put everything back together in the car. So another problem I had when the glass was replaced, they broke off the defroster connector on the passenger side. So when I had them redo the window seal again while the glass was out, I had them solder the connector back on, and they told me don't plug it in till the next day because they wanted to let the adhesive on the glass that holds the glass to the car, they wanted to let it dry. And so I'm going to connect all those, and then there's the antenna at the top here, and there's a plastic cover over that. So I connected the antenna. The glass at the top of the glass has an antenna in the glass for the radio, and then the rest is the defroster. So after they connected the broken off connector, I did a continuity test to make sure I took my multimeter and tested continuity from the left side to the right side with the red and black leads, and I got a beep, so there is continuity across the glass from the 2 connectors. And I want to make sure they didn't blow my fuse either, so I tested the connector plug left and right with my multimeter on 12 volt DC setting, well, voltage DC setting, and turned on the defroster, and between the 2 left and right connectors I got 12 volts DC, which means the fuse is still good. So my defroster should work now. So I'm going to go ahead and plug those back in. Okay, so I just threw the side piece in, and it's held in with these, the one with the point goes here in the side, and the one with no point goes up here next to the tail light. Okay, and this side tray goes goes in here. This holds the jack parts, and it's actually held in with these little plastic rivet things, and they just press in. You pry them out with a screwdriver, just pop them up, and then lift this thing and it comes out. So it's got these little tabs here that gotta go in here, and so we'll line that up. Okay, so we got the jack parts plastic in. There's a little plastic rivet you just push down. Those two are in. We've got that piece in. There's a little plastic push pin there, and there's the other one here, the threaded piece. And then inside the car there's a plastic rivet in the middle and a plastic rivet on the upright portion, and same on the driver's side. So that's all in. Now we're going to put this centerpiece in. And we just tuck that under the rubber and put the little plastic pins in. So these little plastic push pins, just push in there and then you thread it in. They don't fit super tight or anything. And this rubber seal can just pull away to get tucked under here. There, centerpiece is in. So now we'll put in the lug wrench. Let's throw that in there. And the handle, put that in there. And the Okay, so that's in there. And I'll put the jack away. I'll put the jack in here, and then we just turn it a little bit so it doesn't pop out of there. Don't overdo it because you don't want to put a dent in the side of your car. So let's get it snug, but don't overdo it. Just so it doesn't bounce out of there. Okay, so now let's put our cover back on. And there we go. So the jack tools and the jack are put away. Okay, so now we'll throw the spare tire back in there. And that's what started this whole thing. I was checking the air in my spare tire, which you should do once in a while. And they do go flat over time. And I went to check the air, and I found a big puddle of water in my trunk. It had been raining for days and days, and water was getting in somewhere. So that's what started me on this odyssey. So this is a replacement spare tire, because just a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was driving down the freeway, and the spare tire, while it was in the trunk, exploded on me. And it made this loud bang, and I didn't know what it was, and it took me a while to figure out it was the spare tire that blew in the trunk from old age. So I have flipped the tire over the way it needs to be for this hold down screw to go in. you got to take these tires out to check the air because they're mounted upside down. It's a space-saving spare tire, and they mount them in here upside down so you can throw stuff in here for storage. Gives you a little extra room. So now the spare is in there. Okay, so I just threw the big piece into the trunk, and there's one little push pin that secures it, and that's right here. One little push pin, and then there's 4 of these. For like a cargo net or something to hold down. And then this is kind of cool. This hooks onto your trunk lid, and then you can get to your spare tire and it holds it up for you. That's kind of a nice thing that they put on there. And then you can just conceal that by pulling the string down, drop it down. Okay, and this car still has a good cargo net, so let's hook that up in here, and that just goes over these things and the one on the bottom. These nets can go in all kinds of configurations depending on what you want to carry. So there's the cargo net back in. Okay, so let's go do the interior work now. We're going to put the pieces that go up by the glass in first. So if you ever have to replace the rear struts in a TL, these covers have to come off. So this is good information to have on how to put these back in when you're done putting your struts in. I already did the struts on this car like 100,000 miles ago, so they're still pretty good. Do mostly freeway driving. Okay, so first thing you want to do is thread your seat belts through this slot and make sure they're not twisted, and do it for both of them on the passenger side, and then get it lined up with these push pins that go in the small holes there, not the large hole, but the small hole. So you want to push it all the way back against the glass and then line up the push pin hole and pop it in there. So I'm going to put the camera down while I shove this in the corner and do that. Okay, so we've pushed the 2 pins down, and now you got to get these little tabs. There's one below each seat belt. Get these little tabs into their slots. There and there. So the passenger side is in. Now let's go to the driver's side rear. Okay, so on the driver's side, line the 2 pins up with the small holes, push them in, get the tab, and we already threaded our seat belt through that slot. Make sure there's no twists in it going all the way down. And then get that tucked in here, A great thing to have when you're doing this job is a nice thick piece of foam, because you want to protect your knees while you're doing this on the metal. Okay, now we got to put in the child latch anchors. So these just go through these holes here and line up. And if you're using a wrench on this, be really careful of the glass. You gotta Torque these down with a wrench once you get them lined up, but do not hit that glass. Okay, and the wrench you're going to need is 12 millimeter, and righty-tighty, tighten that up, and make sure you have this lined up facing forward before you torque it down, so that this little cover is going to fit over it and it'll look nice and neat and functional. Okay, we got it torqued, and put our cover right on there. Done with it. Okay. Torque down the passenger rear, put our cover on, there we go, nice little snap. We're done with that side, both sides are done. There's also a center child restraint connector that I did not remove. It wasn't necessary to remove, so I just left that one in. So now we're going to put our speaker back in. Okay, so now we're going to put the Bose speaker in. This car came with original equipment with Bose. Sounds pretty good. It's got 4 screws that hold it in, so we're going to need a 8 millimeter socket and a wrench. We'll put this in. It only has one connector. We'll do that inside the trunk after we get it in. So put the connector towards the rear because it's going to connect. Let's find that connector first. So the connector is actually towards the front of the car, close to the back seat. So when you put this speaker in, make sure the connector is towards the front of the car. Okay, so we got the speaker in with the connector right about here. So it'll be able to be plugged in the trunk. So now we just tighten these down. And do not hit the glass with your wrench. Like I said before, don't break the window after all this work. Okay, for the ones in the back, I had to switch to my shallow 8 millimeter socket instead of the deep because of the clearance with the glass. So 8 millimeter, 4 screws. So in the trunk, there is the connector for the speaker. So let's plug that in. So that is connected now. You'll just hear a nice snap when it goes in. And there's a push pin when you go to release it. So get some good lighting on there. So now it's time to install the center high mounted brake light. And on this there are 2 connectors in the trunk for the 2 bulbs. So let's lay this up there and connect the bulbs. And this just snaps in. These 2 push pins, you hook these under the front, or actually these go back by the glass. You tuck those in by the glass, and then by the seat upright portion you just give them a push and it's in. Okay, so you want to pop this cover off first before you go inside the car. So just on the back side, just give it a real firm push through there, pop that out. We're going to put that in last because we need clearance for this thing to go over the child restraint hook. So get those 2 clips in the back by the glass lined up. And then give it a push. All we did was push down. Okay, now let's put this cover over. Get that hooked in the front. And then snap it down on the top. And that's in. Now let's go around to the trunk and hook up. So here's the connectors for the bulbs for the high mounted brake light. Push them in until they snap. When you get a new rear window, they tell you don't roll down the windows for 3 days, because if you're driving on the freeway, the wind will push the glass out because it's not dried yet, the adhesive. So I'm going to put this under my steering wheel so I can check my brake lights. Those bulbs are on. Let's check the other two. Those bulbs are on. Those bulbs are on. Good. We got brake lights. Now we're going to put these 2 plastic covers that cover the wire for the defroster. I think they're called C-pillars. That covers on the inside right here. It will cover that section. So they're just pressed in there and they snap. So you got to line them up. There's a lot of connectors on these things. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 metal connectors that snap in and hold it in place. The trick is to line it up and then bash it. Okay, so just line this up, get this underneath here. Get it all ready. Get this lined up here. There we go. Just give it some little smacks until you hear all those pins set in there. And this will probably have to come up. Okay, in case you're wondering how I got these C-pillar covers out, just get a screwdriver in between and then just pop those clips off, and then wear gloves and work your fingers around it until you pop the whole thing off. That's how I got them. Okay, so got this little piece lined up, this little piece tucked in, and now let's get our rubber weather stripping covering the plastic. There we go. The rubber weather stripping for the door. That's all nice and tidy. That piece is in. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so this plastic cover for the antenna, it needs to go by the glass and then slide up towards the ceiling. Okay, so we started out on the glass and slid it upward, and now our antenna cover is on there. Okay, so now it's time to put the upright portion of the back seat in. And it's held in at the top with these 3 clips. And at the bottom, that's how it's held in. So for a 20-year-old car, this leather is still in really good shape. It's one of the reasons I did not want the glass store taking it out, because they would damage it. So there's no tears or anything, no cracks in the leather. So just throw the seat in and then get the seat belts on the outside. There's 3 seat belts, so don't forget the middle one. You got to get all 3 seat belts on the outside of this upright portion of the seat before you try and hook it. Okay, so lift it up. It's a tight fit. You've got to get up to here with the seat on both sides. Lift it up and then get it against here and drop it down so those 3 hooks at the top go in the slots. And then thread your seatbelt through here. There's a little opening for you to put the seatbelt through. Okay, now we got to fasten the bottom. Okay, so like most Hondas, 10 millimeter. It's an Acura, but still a Honda. So there's 3 bolts for the bottom of the upright, and there's one by the passenger door. There's a second one by the center seat belt. And there's another one over here on the driver's side of the car. So we're going to put the bolts, 3 bolts, in to hold the upright part of the seat. So always thread the bolts in as far as you can by hand first. You don't want to cross thread them. And then get an extension socket. Just push the leather back a little bit and just tighten that up. Kind of hard to do with one hand while you're holding the camera. Okay, it's in there. Okay, so in the center, the one that has the seat belt for the center passenger, that's where you want to put the 3rd bolt. So there's one on the left, one on the right, and one here by the seat belt. The other one that is also in the middle by the armrest, but it's on the driver's side of the middle, driver's side middle, that is going to have the bolt for the bottom seat cushion. So don't stick a bolt in this one yet. Okay, so over here on the passenger side of the center, yeah, go ahead and put a bolt in that one, and the far left and far right. But this one on the driver's side of the center, don't put that bolt in. Okay, so now we're ready to put in the bottom cushion. And there's one part that gets screwed in. Like I said, it goes by the center in there on the driver's side of the center. And so you put in these 2 hooks right here, one on the passenger, one on the driver's side. And those just drop in. So this drops in here, and this one drops in here, and then we put our bolt in with our extension socket. And we of course make sure we get all 3 seat belts on top of the seat cushion before it's in. Okay. Okay, so we flip the seat down, and we got our seat buckles, no twists in them. And so when you get it in, you can get, it just goes in there. I go around to the other side. far enough pushed back, it'll just drop in. Okay, that's lined up. And now, right next to this, it says center. We can feel down there, there's the slot we're going to stick our last bolt. Okay, so I'm going to try and show you why this is the hardest one to do. You see that? So that loop piece of metal from the bottom seat cushion goes on top of the flat metal from the upper seat cushion, and you've got to get the bolt in there. So using a long extension and your fingers, line it up and thread it in by hand first. Got it threaded in by hand. And now we've got that bolt in there securely without cross-threading it. Okay. So now we've got the seat in. We've got all of our seat belts properly done. We've got our speaker in. We've got our brake lights in. We've got our trunk liner in, our net. And now we should have no more leaks. This nice new rubber seal around our window. Of course, the tape has to stay on for 3 days. And so we'll just call that job done.